Hey yo, what's up, everybody? I'm just here with another quick podcast for you, and gonna be talking about what it's gonna take to stop Donald Trump and how to do it. What are the kind of things, intangibles that we're looking for in a candidate? Who, if anybody, can do it? So we're gonna talk a little bit about the presidential race so far, and man, it's been mighty interesting. Been a very crazy year to be following all of this, and I'm sure everybody's senses are a little bit shocked right now, right? So it's looking like the Trumpster is running wild on the Republican Party. He's the top of the food chain killer. Jonathan Alter, who's a more or less a talking head, he's a journalist. He is an MSNBC contributor. He's also a frequent guest on the Ed Schultz podcast. He refers to Donald as the Frankenstein, or the Trumpenstein, if you will, of the GOP. And basically, if you look at the Tea Party movement and, some of these outsider type groups have been agitating and organizing against the establishment of the Republican Party for the past several years. They kept saying they wanted someone who wasn't politically correct. They wanted someone who was going to appeal to their the red meat of the party, and they've created Donald Trump. They created this phenomenon, and now the entire conservative movement and the Republican Party is reaping the whirlwind of having built up this bombastic billionaire, Donald Trump, and given him such a loud voice of authority within the party. Keep in mind, Fox News built this guy up. They had him on all the time so he could give his opinions on the party and stuff before he ever decided to run for president. So as far as how things have been going so far, we've had 4 states that have voted so far on the Republican side, 3 states on the Democratic side. The much talked about South Carolina Democratic primary will take place on Saturday. And, as a Bernie Sanders supporter, just be happy to get it out of the way. It's definitely looking like hill country down there. Due to the personal, her and her husband's personal relationship with African Americans, and I guess whatever else plays into it, she's still maintaining a wide lead down there, mostly from the strength of her support among black voters. But we'll talk about the Republican side here first. And obviously Trump's won 3 of the 4 states that have voted. Now, we're still waiting for the larger states to vote. So let's keep that in mind, folks. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. There's a lot of voting yet to happen. Ted Cruz, the only other candidate besides Trump to score a win so far in the Iowa caucuses, and obviously Cruz, man, the guy's a dirty campaigner. I don't know if it's people within his campaign or if it was some group that's allied with him, a super PAC perhaps, but they did the dirty robocalls in Iowa telling voters that Ben Carson was going to drop out of the race, of course, earlier on the day of the Iowa caucuses. And so a lot of the people went to the caucus thinking Carson was out or he'd soon be out, and some of them flipped to Cruz for that reason. That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But really, if you look at these other candidates that are challenging Trump, there's only 5 people left running on the Republican side. Jeb Bush, the latest and most well-known candidate to bite the dust so far, and a lot of that because of Trump, and also because the Bush name had been damaged badly by the Iraq War and the economy plunging into the Great Recession, and now as we see basically a recovery that's been mired with stagnant wages and all the wealth going to the top 1%, and a lot of budget cuts also. Um, Cuts to education and unsavory things like union busting throughout the Midwest. But Donald Trump obviously is taking advantage right now of the anger in the country and the fact that people are tired of establishment politics. Now you're seeing that on the Democratic side among progressives with Bernie Sanders as well. Of course, I think is kind of tapping into anger as well. But basically, if you look at the Republican side, can anyone beat Trump? And I think Cruz is the only one who's really got a shot. Now here's why. If you look at the calendar here, Texas, which is Cruz's home state, they are a Super Tuesday state, so they vote on just a few days here on Tuesday, March 1st. Last I saw, Cruz does have a lead in Texas, but it's not a wide one. So he's got work to do there. And Cruz, basically, regardless of what you think about him, he's got strong evangelical support, and he has a really good ground game, and he's got, I think, plenty of money to sustain him for now anyway. And he's the only other guy who's won a state. So really, I think anyone could beat Donald on the Republican side. Possibly, maybe, could be Cruz, or at least Cruz could get him a run for his money. Really, I think it's Marco Rubio, several second-place finishes and a third-place finish in Iowa. So he's racking up some delegates, but Rubio, bottom line is you got to win states in order to have any chance to win the nomination, even if they're looking at a possible brokered convention on the Republican side. And really, I just think Rubio's a little young yet. I don't think it's his time. John Kasich, of course, staying in the race as well. His home state of Ohio votes on March 15, same day that Rubio's home state, Florida, votes. And basically, they both got to win their home state. If they don't, they're going to drop out of the race. Really, honestly, it's looking like the Republican nomination is Trump's to win right now, or to lose, depending on how you look at it. And but watch the Cruz campaign, because they're tricky, and Cruz is a smart politician and a good lawyer. So even though he's hated by a lot of people within the conservative movement, or more so in the Republican Party, because a lot of the establishment Republicans hate Cruz, he's going to hang around and do his best to try to upend Trump here. But really, I think Trump eventually gets the Republican nod, the way things are headed. Like it or not, I think Republicans are stuck with him. On the Democratic side, obviously it's been a very interesting race so far. Bernie Sanders and his enthusiastic supporters, fueled by a lot of young people, are giving a lot of people thought of the heir apparent to the Democratic nomination, Hillary Clinton. He's given her a real run for her money so far. Very close on the Democratic side. Hillary has won 2 of the early voting states, while Bernie has won the big win in New Hampshire. Iowa, more or less a tie. So Bernie is right there with Hillary. If you look at the delegate math, they're basically tied in delegates at this point if you take the super delegates out of the equation. Really, I think the super delegates are undemocratic. They need to get rid of them, but that's a rant for another podcast, perhaps. But, if we're looking ahead to the general election, really, what's the formula you got to have to be able to win a general election? Well, you got to hold your party's base, obviously, and you got to be able to bring some new people into the process, young people, perhaps, and appeal to independent voters. And if you're a Democrat, you basically got to do well enough, do good with the minority vote, hold the minority vote. You've got to hold your own with the white working class, across the middle part of the country especially. And you got to have a good voter turnout. Young people, you got to get them to the polls. Who appeals to young people and independents? And a white working class in this election? Well, so far on the Democratic side, it's Bernie Sanders. And Hillary Clinton has high negatives. About half the country thinks she is untrustworthy, and about half the country, or maybe a little bit higher than that, have negative views of her. For these reasons, I mean, look at Hillary Clinton. She is a very known commodity. For these reasons, and because Trump is doing very well with the white working class so far, and well with independents, I think it makes Hillary, boy, that's a big gamble in the general election. And the question is, will the young people turn out for Hillary if she ends up in the nomination? When a lot of the Bernie supporters are very turned off by her. I'm not convinced they will. Whereas Bernie has the formula to beat Trump, and if you look at some of the hypothetical head-to-head matchups with Republicans, Bernie does much better not only against Trump, but against all the Republican candidates. So honestly, if you want to stop Trump, you get Bernie Sanders nominated. That's how you do it. I'm not just saying that because he's my candidate. I think he's the one who, really the only one who can stop Trump.